Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Getting Through the Holidays free daily show here on the internet on this webinar software. Welcome to day two of dealing with the energies of the holidays collectively and personally for energetically sensitive and empathic people. My name is Yona Brindis, and next to me is
Roger Schwartz. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming here in such large number. It's a real honor to see, that there are so many people out there that, regardless of all the Christmas stress here in the Western world, or any other type of holiday stress that you feel in your world, to come here, to take the time to come here and to share and to pay attention to a place where we want to talk about the other aspects of Christmas. So the other aspects being, what is it really that happens here today? We will have a show every day until the 1st of January. So every day we'll take a little time to reflect on the collective energies of this day, and then go into a subject, a theme for the day, how to deal with those collective energies that are affecting us. Of course, after explaining how they affect us, and then discussing things. And we really want to stress this. We really want to point this out, that this is for you. We do this here as a way to be of service to you. In the past, Roger and I have done free remote energy sessions. We have done, what have we done, Roger? Hotline service
Yes.
through Christmas and holiday. And we're, to a degree, still trying to figure out what the best way is to be of service in these days that are traditionally challenging for people on all levels, not just on our, personal level with ourselves, dealing with outer energies, but also families and you know, escalating things. A lot of events happen when families come together. So there is a natural sort of tendency for things to emerge, for things to be triggered in those days leading up to the holidays and in between until the new year moves in. So here is Roger. Roger, do you want to just share just a brief background of yours? What is it that you do?
Well, I've been training as a trans coach for the last several years with Iona, and I do some work with Jeff. I'm in the level 4 training program now to learn remote clearing. My background pretty much has got to do with recovery. I was had quite a whirlwind experience with addiction and all when I was younger, and ended up in treatment at 22. So my life has been about recovery pretty much since then. And I have modality Grace Recovery that I offer, a Master of Grace Integrity, and I've been involved in the remote prayers group for several years, I think now. If that's correct, Iona, I can't really recall.
I know, has it been 5 years already?
Everything's been kind of a blur since it all started. So,
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. So
and I'm
that's
about to have my own website online shortly.
Yeah. So Recover Your Heart is where Roger offers his coaching services. Um, so if you want to do some research there, you will find Roger online. All right.
So,
So what is the objective of these webinar meetings? What do we do here? And why do we go through these hoops to um, to and create a daily show? the reason for that is that we are all energetically sensitive here. We're all energetically sensitive, and we understand that some of the things, even though we can explain them maybe, or we can educate people on things, some of the things that energetically sensitive and empathetic people go through, especially right now, are very difficult to describe. And so we don't really have a lot of people whom we can share this with. And this is the objective, really the only objective of these meetings that we do here every day, is to just provide a platform to share, to ask questions, and to get empowerment for some of the challenges that you go through. We talk about the energies of the day, which no matter which part of the world you live in, you'll find surprising, but are very similar for people. And of course, to encourage you, to give you tools to become an active participant. And one of the things that we do here to show this and also to live this is that we allow panel guests, we allow people who already use this platform, trans coaches, which are the energy coaches that are trained here at transCODES, and also just any participant who would like to come to participate. And we have a special panel guest today, which is Sheila. Sheila, can you hear me?
I sure can, yes.
Hi, Sheila.
Hey, how are you guys?
And basically, we're aware that after a while, us talking, this can get really boring. So we kind of try to get people on board with different voices and different experiences. But Sheila is someone who is also in training for becoming an energy healer and energy coach here. But besides that, Sheila has a really cool background. And would you like to share, just give a brief introduction of yourself, Sheila, just so people know, where you're coming from?
Yeah, sure. I have participated with you guys through the Sacred Heart Healing, and I'm doing the training level 1 work now. And but as far as my my professional background is in clinical. I have a master's degree in clinical counseling and a master's degree in social work, and I work with child welfare in my state. So, yes.
So from your experience and your professional background, what is the meaning of this time right now, this time between Christmas and New Year's?
I think this is, just as you've already laid out, it's a very critical time for a lot of people, and I think what I have found, and especially being kind of energetically sensitive, as you know, on top of all of that, I see, obviously we see a lot of people, suicides increase, there's a lot of difficulty with just overall coping, but on top of it all, there's a lot of movement going on and a lot of changes in environments and people struggling financially, and so there's a lot of pressure and difficulties and sadness and grief. I mean, it's almost like everything comes crashing down and we end a year and get ready to start a new one. So it seems like a lot of pressure, and people just tend to find themselves having difficulty coping with that.
What are, and not to be negative, but just sort of as, also to give you all an idea of how this time is regarded amongst the social and the healing services, what are some of the typical things between Christmas and New Year's that you guys see working in social services?
Definitely, yeah, definitely an increase in stress, which causes people to make very poor choices and decisions, unfortunately. So you have some increase in drugs and alcohol consumption. My line of work right now is in child welfare, so unfortunately it's been a terrible increase in abuse and neglect cases, which seems kind of strange given that it's you know, Christmas and people are thinking happy, usually happy things, but I think the stress really seems to cause a lot of things where people to make poor choices.
So poor choices is kind of like the key word here for us, looking at things from an energetic point of view. But before we go into the details of some of these energetic and vibrational levels that some of our choices can have, because this is where I would like to uh, uh, um, go today, is like really looking at, you know, what are our choices, and what are healthy choices and what are unhealthy choices, and what sort of energetic vibration do they calibrate at. But before I do this, I just wanted to give everybody a quick heads up, and I'd love it if you shared or commented on that, what the current energies are right now. So as of today, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, December the 22nd, we're still under the influence, and quite strongly, because of the winter solstice or solstice energies. Almost like the peak has always only been 12 hours ago. So there is a sort of astronomical or planetary influence on all our energies. And what that does, regardless of what we believe in, really, it has nothing to do with our belief system. On these days, on these solstice days, whether it's summer or winter solstice, or whether it's we're looking at the longest or the shortest day of the year, these days are calibration days, which means on those days something very important happens. There's a recalibration of the light that happens, of the sun. All right, and the sun being the star here, that's, you know, sort of our center of energy. So there's a recalibration of the sun, and that leads to, even on and that's can be proven on an electromagnetic level, to recalibration of our cells. All right, so there is a, just like full moon energies, there is a empirical correlation there between some of these celestial astronomical events and our energies. And so still being under the influence of these solstice energies, this recalibration, today has been a very, very strong, powerful day for a lot of people. But in probably either direction. So there is no, from an energetic standpoint, there really is no good or bad. Um, the only thing that is really sticking out for today energetically is having to make a choice. There's something there, and I know a lot of you energetically sensitive people have shared this here before, in transmission work or coaching. There's a sense of something is going to happen. There's this like really sort of nagging feeling of something coming down. All right, and this sense, where we use our intuition, is totally accurate, and it would be typical for solstices also to feel this, but today was particularly strong. And as our energies try to align to that, and like I said earlier, recalibrate to the light, to the light on the outside, which would be the sun, and to the light stored in form of cell memory within us, we are sort of at a point where we feel a bit pressure to make a choice. And this can manifest in our lives through exactly what Sheila just said. Stress. Stress. You know, am I going to have enough money to buy all the Christmas gifts that I want to do? Am I, how am I going to do this? You know, a certain, you know, like an uncertainty maybe, or how is this going to be perceived, what I'm doing and preparing. So there's, just through the holiday season, there's a lot of commotion, as you said. There's a lot of sort of chaos energetically, and we're still building. And so there's this inner sort of shift right now that can feel very erratic, very chaotic in us, where we feel like, is this even true to us? Do we even want that? Is this congruent? You know, am I really behind all the things that I'm doing, or the gifts that I'm buying, or the people that I'm going to be seeing? All the things maybe that I have to prepare, that I have to spend, or are these things, am I doing these things really from the heart? Yes, like someone here is commenting, like seeing the larger context. So this is what came in with last night's winter solstice, or summer solstice in the southern hemisphere energies. So if you felt a little like grumpy or maybe cranky today, and then that's because your energy kind of wants a clear sort of, give me a direction, you know, and let me know if this is really what you want to do. So it's almost like an inner checkup, and many of you may feel this in form of your critical inner voice, you know, starting to become really loud, like constantly nagging. Well, you can't spend that much money, or why are you doing this? Or, no, they're not going to love that. What if they don't like that? What if they don't like me? You know, all these kind of things. We call those our critical inner voice. Yes. And of
It's an
course,
irritation in the body, kind of the energy, frictional, or it doesn't feel quite right. That's running through my entire body.
yeah, which parts of your body, Roger? Where do you feel this?
Uh, Everywhere, throughout my whole body.
Yeah,
Something's
there's a
just off a little bit, and yeah.
yeah, feeling off. Yeah. Some people have stomach issues right now, so that seems to be a bit more of a statistical significance here. Issues with the stomach, stomach bugs, feeling pressure in the sternum area, in the third chakra area. So if you haven't, or even chest, lung, and sort of feeling that your rib cage is under pressure. These are very typical symptoms right now. All right. So if that is something that you are experiencing, maybe already for a couple of days, but know that this has to do with um, your alignment to your inner truth. All right. And this area here of the stomach, but of course also, you know, all over, has a lot to do with not only our solar plexus energy center, the third chakra that we have there, but also everything that is concerning our willpower, that is concerning our power to manifest things on this level. So if you are feeling this, then know that this is part of an inner conflict that is building, which is the pathway of your willpower, the pathway of your ego versus the pathway of your heart. Yes, and I'm getting a lot of comments here right now. So the overall idea, or the overall purpose of using these last days in the year is to move into um, congruence, to move into that place where our intention and what we feel in our heart and what we feel as our intuition, that they become one. That's sort of the overall goal. Yes, another comment here. Instead of being half-hearted, you know, to really, you know, be aware of the decisions that we make and what quality they have.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last night, how it was intensified, at least for me, over several days, when we're not following our heart right now. What's incongruent was really standing out. It's very obvious.
Yeah, getting a lot of comments here. You know,
Yeah.
not being wishy-washy.
Roger, I was going to say as well that I think that's the other piece that maybe intensifies that this time of year is even when you're, at least for me, when I'm feeling like I'm running a pretty decent, you know, consistent course of being in my heart most of the time and feeling pretty good, I've really started to feel the chest pain
Yes.
these last week or so, and I haven't felt that in a really long time. But it's almost like the like that underlying anxiety feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of that is when I really go back into the breathing and into the heart piece, I find that it's because there's so many things going on around me that I feel like, that I'm trying to figure out which parts are me, like which things I want to be congruent with and be a part of, and which things I don't. And it's really hard to say no
Yes.
right now
Yes.
because there's a million things going on, and I think that's tough for people.
Yeah.
But you almost get to a place where you have no choice if you want to be comfortable.
Absolutely.
You have
And
to
you
pick
guys,
and choose.
you guys really brought up an important aspect here of this, what we sometimes call global awakening, or people starting to awaken to their consciousness, to this type of awareness. Is this really true to me? Is this really something that I really want to, or am I just doing this for the neighbors, or because of what
Yeah.
other people think of me, or what is expected of me, or what's most familiar to me, really, sometimes, or actually very often, I'm just because I have been doing it like this forever. So we have a
And
different.
just a quick injection here. It's really critical. Critical. I don't know is the right word, but um, in my past, the most difficult times through the holidays was feeling alone and lonely. So there were a lot of things I did where to feel love from other people.
Yeah,
So
yes, same here.
now
And
now the choices are I have to really feel out my motivation behind things.
Yeah.
yes,
And another good point on that one, Roger, too, is that people can feel, I've felt this, can feel alone even with people. So even though there's a lot of people and you're around everyone, you can still feel very much alone. So that's something that's not weird. Like that really
Yeah,
happens. You know what I
I mean
mean?
that's what we do here at transcodes, right? We teach people or we learn to go to our hearts, to our source, and find that love within us. So um,
Right.
that's the big thing through me, and part of the reason why I was excited to get involved in this because there was a long period over the holidays where I felt that. Um,
yes,
I mean, I used to go out and look up at the sky at night and think it was really somebody made a huge mistake putting me on a planet. There was something definitely missing. I felt this longing all the time, and that was that inner love, that we learned to find. But that was always a search for that during the holidays, and drinking or whatever to try and take that pain away was ever present. It was
yes, and it seems to hit particularly hard around the celebration of love, of light, of family, and where everybody around us seems to have such a great time.
yes,
and and we feel like the only ones, that feel that way. Um, so
and
that's
a lot of people experience that same thing, but it's not talked about a lot.
so one of the things, that we here, sort of as a community, representing a community of energetically sensitive people that we are dealing with is that all these what you could consider to be social psychological phenomena, they tend to hit us hard. And not in order to make this special, but they tend to hit us a little harder because there is a part in us that can already sense when we are not true. So to bring this into context with the evolution of consciousness and the evolution of mankind, is that we begin to see ourselves, to feel ourselves beyond just our emotional, physical, or mental perception. We begin to feel ourselves sorry, on a level of energy, on a level of congruence, on a level of truth. And we all are in this sort of transition here, which is why it's very difficult to get answers. And a lot of us seek answers, in spiritual teachings and esoteric teachings, or uh, uh, religious teachings, and we will find some answers there. But there still is something associated with that, and that is sort of the collective programming that we have to get better in order to, like say, not feel lonely. Then we have to try harder. We have to be a better person so that we can be loved more. We have to be in a certain way to deserve love, or in a larger context, God's love.
Yeah,
And
it's like no darkness,
yes, and that
no
is
bad thoughts or actions, that kind of thing. Please do more for others. Be like a saint.
right, and that can lead to even stronger inner conflict, because wanting to be somebody or to be in a certain way can really sort of mess with our energies, and begin to manifest in physical or sort of prolonged emotional downs, but also physical, like sometimes even chronic conditions. And so the energetic view of this evolving consciousness in us is to not look at it as a ladder or as something that we need to ascend to or aspire to, but to really look at it in sort of the opposite way and see that if the conditions are right, if we can provide a condition in which we become true to ourselves, and then this love or this a source energy that we're longing for comes to us. We attract it into our lives, which on a metaphysical level then would be, instead of looking at it as an ascension process, to really look at it as a descension, where we pull this to us. So, and on a much larger level than of understanding, it really means to stop seeking, to stop trying so hard, and instead to find that love that we long for, that we're longing for. To try to feel this within ourselves. And here's where the conflict sort of takes on its illusion, and that is that we believe so strong that we have to be in a certain way, that we have to almost neglect our own truth and parts of ourselves in order to keep that sort of fake front, as we call it, or false self, to keep that intact. And when we energize that, when we energize the illusion of who we are, we cannot be true to ourselves at the same time. So the hardest part about becoming one with the divine field, or with this sort of our own source, is that we don't understand, that we can't understand it, and yet that we can experience it. And the only way to experience this is really by realizing that we're already a part of it. And so some of the things we do here at transCODES is really just there to show us that there are platforms, there are other people out there that feel the same way and that are willing to go all the way, and where it's okay to share our point of view. And I will only introduce this here real quick. There is something that we use here for energy coaching, and that is a scale, a vibrational scale that helps us to identify what energetic state we are actually in at a certain moment. And all I really want you to focus on here for now, because we will go into the deeper aspects of that in the following days, is these red states here and the blue states. So the red states, the scale from 0 to 5, those are contractive states. They're often called negative energies, if you will, or negative energy fields. Some people call it negative emotions. I would not go that far. From an energetic standpoint, there really isn't a negative emotion. Every emotion is just an emotion, and all emotions are important. But we often feel that they have a negative effect on us. talking of pain, talking of fear, talking of anger. Some of the things that we mentioned earlier here with Roger and Sheila and I, that sort of play out during the holidays where people are under a lot of stress and are not able to control those levels of illusion much longer. So these are considered to be contractive energetic states, which means that they pull us down. So if we get triggered in any of these emotions and don't know how to shift our energy out of these states, then it can happen that we get stuck in them, that we get stuck in these states. And from an energetic point of view, this is sort of what we are dealing with here. When there's a lot of stress. When there's a lot of stress, our personal energy management becomes less efficient. Like Sheila expressed, how did you say that? We don't make the best choices because
Yeah.
simply because we don't have access to all our more expensive skills and inner states. And so these blue states here on the scale of starting from 5.1, if you will, till 10, those are the states that we all aspire to. Those are parts of our goal system where we want to be. We want to be abundant in love, in money, in physical health. And we want to feel joy, and we want to be happy. Everybody kind of wants that. And yet, as you can see here, this is almost like the consequence of us sort of being able to manage all these other states, that a lot of us feel this sort of discrepancy, finding ourselves, in fear and uncertainty, not knowing how to pay the bills or what's going to happen biologically, geographically, or politically, or whatever, or being in pain, or simply just trying to, almost, being overwhelmed with needing to control everything. So this is what happens in times of stress, is that we cannot really have an efficient energy management, and our energy goes low, not because we are not able to be happy, but because we are susceptible to outer energies. We're more susceptible to outer energies in these times than we usually are.
Hey, Jonah. So I know, especially the more I look at this chart and think about this, and it really just hit me as we were looking at it again. What I wrote down was that those lower levels of the energetic states have the most tendency to leave us in, so if someone's looking for an example of physically how you feel, those are those tighter, heavier physical feelings that go with that area, versus that, for me, the feelings of lighter, a physical light feeling in those upper levels. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, that's a very good point, Sheila. These slower vibratory states, and I'm choosing the word slower on purpose because there is no judgment really with it. These vibratory states here are directly linked to our nervous system, to our autonomous nervous system. They're linked to a function in our in that animalistic part of our brain that has to assess whether to fight, to flee, or to freeze.
Right.
All right. And we all know what that's like. It's like all our knowledge, all our better intentions, all our everything goes out the window. When we are in anger, we are literally acting, like our Neanderthalian ancestors. and there is a reason for that, and that is that these states are linked, they're energetically tied to, or not just energetically, they're neurologically tied to our body.
And
this is why they feel so much heavier.
Yeah, and I think, to me, that tends to be what most of us get the signal first is that physical feeling. And so sometimes that's what gets our attention, is physically feeling something, and then we start looking around like, why do I feel like that? Like, why am I physically feeling sick to my stomach, or why do I have this chest pain? Mm-hmm. That's usually that first thing that gives us a sign. And then if we are learning like this to look deeper than just that physical symptom, then we can find out that there's some other things possibly connected.
Right, and I agree with you. Most people, not all people, but most people will feel their inner guidance, their inner signaling that something isn't balanced, that something is out of harmony, all right, through their body. Not all of us do. Some people feel it in the emotions. They'll feel a drop in emotion. They'll feel like all of a sudden they feel grumpy, or they'll feel anxiety. So this has a lot to do with sort of the complex web of past memory and coping mechanisms that we develop over our lifetime. But you're right. There's always a first signal, and then and that's sort of our job then. If we want to really learn how to manage our energy, how to manage them to be more persistently in these higher or faster vibrational states, that requires us to really go a level deeper and to, like you just said, to ask the question, why am I feeling like this right now? And then, of course, along with this come a lot of other questions. Is, of course, what got me here? What can I do to prevent this from happening again? But the core question, whenever we feel any type of energetic shift. And again, this has to do, of course, with the sensitivity that a person has. But most of us here in this audience are energetically sensitive by nature, which means we will notice shifts. We may not be able to describe it in words, but we will notice shifts, even either on a physical level, emotional level, or just an energetic sensation. And our job is then to learn our inner signaling system, but to identify really where we are at this very moment. Okay, I'm in anger, and to take sort of to own that part and to ask ourselves, what can I do right now? Regardless of what got me here, regardless of what was triggered and so forth, what can I do right now to change that? And this is basically what we're going through in sort of an escalated or amplified version, or a more intensified version, when there is a lot of stress from the outside on top of our inner stress that we are already feeling.
I want to make a quick comment about those states. I have been so clogged up for years that probably with everything from 5 and down, that was like what I was. So there were years that I couldn't tell any shifts or anything. I had to start unraveling some of the programs and patterns and getting all the stored emotions out of the way before I could get out of the pain enough to feel other things.
Yes, and this is really another effect of what happens when we're under stress, is that the first response is that our system gets so overloaded that we can't really feel anything anymore. So there's a little bit of training, there's a little bit of discipline needed for us to really listen to inside, to feel out, why is my heart pounding right now? Why am I feeling like anxious? Why am I feeling angry right now? We accept those emotions as daily sort of mood swings, but when we begin to really tune into our energy, we will feel that it's not random, that there are a lot of connections here within, and that this is a language that we can learn. And as we learn the language of our inner signaling, and reconnect with it and start listening to it, then we begin to feel more. I mean, how is this for you today, Roger?
Oh, it's totally different. I spend most of my time in the light. Just like Sheila was talking about, if I have issues come into my body, I can transmute them very quickly by connecting with my heart. It's a simple shift of perspective or a refocus to my center, and I bring the energy, allow the energy to come out, and I mean, I can eliminate body pains, knots in the muscles and all that thing that used to be with me for months. They just go away.
What would you
So,
say is the biggest sort of the biggest thing in you, the biggest energy or field in you that prevents you from feeling, when things are coming on, maybe, um, or that can trigger things. What kind of energy in you do you think is mostly responsible for some of these physical sensations or emotional sensations? Where do you think is the source there?
what you mean the uncomfortable ones, the
Well,
ones?
within yourself, sort of where, like, let's make an example. Like, how does that typically go? Like, say, we
Okay.
see something in the news, or we witness something happening between other people, and then something happens.
Yes. I typically I make a judgment or I'm projecting. If I go out into the future, my safest place, my best place is in the moment and just allowing things to happen. When I start judging, I look at unfairness perhaps on the news. I fear or I project an outcome, a possible outcome in the future. That can suck me right out of it and start getting me tense. It brings in the fear. I can go into regret of the past. I can go into guilt for not having done something yet that I think I should have done or done something incorrectly. Uh,
And so forth, right? And all
yeah,
that is
yeah,
just sort of happening in the mind,
yeah,
right?
mind immediately. So, yeah, the solution now is I stay connected with the love energy inside, and the thoughts, they're not as important. They just fly through me now, and I can just observe them and shift instead of judging myself, I see it as a thought and unnecessary judgment that I can just let fly through. I know more about truth now. So there's a lot of love and compassion and forgiveness that I feel when I'm in a good place. And I have also a different perspective on my life. I used to think that the body was the beginning and the end, the life and death of it, or the birth and death of it, was all there was, and I had to search for everything. Everything I needed was outside of me, and now that all comes from within my heart, and the
So
3D
basically,
stuff isn't as important anymore. So
what you just shared was how you learned how to transcend, some of the things as they come in, and how you learned how to not sort of energize through thoughts and emotion, these sort of negative cycles that are within you. What I heard you
yes,
say was that forgiveness and the alignment to your heart and to your inner light, which of course is part of your spiritual practice, that they helped you to develop tools to neutralize or to get through, when your mind is sort of hitchhiking, kidnapping you, into like going into what could have happened or what may happen,
yes,
or
it's amazing. I mean, I used to spiral down. I had so many, the ego and false selves and everything. I grew up pretty much being afraid of being alive, and I couldn't interact with people or anything, so I'm always scanning, watching for people's judgments. So it's amazing how my life has changed, the freedom I've come to, and the peace just from the work I've done.
and also trying to control yourself, right? Because if you feel
Yes,
like you're constantly being monitored or judged from the outside, then you automatically get either into the place of total helplessness, like, or sort of self-doubt, self-worth issues, or trying to control how other people see you, and you.
Yes, well, yeah, the love within the heart. Once I learned to start, of course, when I started working, when I first come to transcodes, this is such a loving environment. I felt so bad about myself. Just a quick background. I was in AA for 15 years or so, very active, and felt good there, but things kept returning. The knots used to keep building up in the third chakra, and I'd spiral down all the time. And then I went into isolation because I became disappointed that all the things I expected in life weren't showing up yet. And I wasn't feeling the way I thought I should feel all the time. Relationships weren't working. So I went into isolation for about 15 years and deep into the darkness and anger and all of that stuff. And there was no self-love whatsoever. But then I found you, Yona, at transCODES, and such a loving environment. I came into it, and I started thinking that maybe what I was hearing from you and through the feeling through the sessions that I was possibly lovable somewhat. So that started allowing the shifts to change. So
The community can also help.
yes, and so I started to learn self-love and started finding it through that connection in my heart, and that's changed just so much.
So I want to use this as a bridge, Roger, to one of the questions that came up yesterday and that we kind of promised we would answer today. And you're getting a lot of positive comments here from the audience, just so you know.
Cool.
Is how to bypass the mind. How to
Yes.
bypass those thoughts, that thinkingness. And I think you've already answered this to a degree here. Would you be able to just sort of summarize this for our audience real quick? Like, what do you think? And Sheila, same thing for you, if you want to complement this. What do you guys think are sort of or not just think, also feel or experience what the most important skills or disciplines are to bypass this power of our mind that can really mess with how we perceive things?
It's to realize it doesn't know what it's talking about most of the time. Most of our thoughts are like they're just looping and they're useless. They go to critical inner voice, what's going on outside of us with others. And like I say again, I go to my heart and I let those thoughts just fly through. They're pretty much meaningless when you learn to love yourself. Most of them are. Um,
Do
they
you have
have
a
no power.
tip? I mean,
What?
do you have a practical tip? I mean, let's say I'm still under the influence of my mind, and I may not even be aware of how much of under the influence of my thinkingness I am. Do you have a practical tip for someone who's like really at the beginning of waking up to all these like complex dynamics inside, and how the mind can take over and really um, sort of drive us into realms that are not healthy for us?
Well, I have to look for the truth. First, I might do a quick check on the truth in the thought that comes in. But most of them, they're related to plans and schemes or getting things from someone. So I don't know. I
What
think
I'm
it's a
thinking,
part of a process that you learn over a period of time with practice and learning to love yourself.
right? But what is a practical sort of what is a practical tool that someone can, like, say, start with? I heard you say one thing, and that is, of course, almost like the basic theme for all of these 12 days, of getting through Christmas, is to align to our truth, to who we truly are. But this is also one of the biggest questions for people, how to get there. So something very practical. What would you recommend someone who's at this very beginning, um, sort of awakening to all these different things. We're getting a lot of comments here.
Yona?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no,
Yes, please.
I was gonna say, because I wrote this, I'm kind of writing as I think, because you know that's how I work. But you know, what I've learned so far has been, in the work with transcodes, has been really going through that difference between my choices being based on like the looping thoughts that you're talking about, Roger, versus being connected to that true inner self. Um, you know, I've given that my term of like my inner me kind of thing, but being allowed to, as I've learned to connect to that, which I think when I hear you talk about it, Roger, you're talking about being in the heart, and there's something that's, it's a slight, I don't know what it is, but it feels slightly different to me. I mean, it's still the heart, but there's some connection to that inner being that for me I've learned to allow things when I'm there to just happen. And like it is a piece of that going through me, but I can let go of the control. And that was one of the biggest things so far that I have learned that has given me peace. And that control of not only me, but of outcomes of other people or other things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a sense of peace that comes with that that I've never known until I've started to learn this. And a tip I would give, to anybody is writing things down, feelings, thoughts, the physical symptoms, so that you, because to me that's what helped me start making that connection from all of the stuff flying around me to my inner self.
Like
And
pain.
without judgment. It's important not to judge the thoughts that come in.
Yeah.
And
But
I often have
to just pay attention to the thoughts that are coming in, or the feelings, or the sensations. Is that what
just, yes, just observe them, because if you notice the thoughts, when you latch onto a thought, you give it any attention at all, that starts the energy moving inside of you, and,
right?
and can amplify things. You'll say, oh yeah, that's true. So then you start feeling whatever, angry or like a victim or whatever, and it just sets up a cycle where everything amplifies. Bing,
Yeah.
bing, 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 bing. So,
and I would say that might not be maybe for everyone. I mean, I would say probably someone would know if that would work for them. It works for me because it's, for me, there's a cathartic release when I write something.
Mm-hmm.
oh yes.
It, for me, I disconnect with that a little bit. I don't know. It just makes sense to me when I do that. It's not a matter of I no longer own it, I guess. So,
It's almost like an observation. You set it down on paper. That's kind of like letting it pass on by, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's kind of how it works for me, and it's very relieving, and then it kind of gives me that little break to make the disconnect, to where then I can just kind of observe it as a third party from afar.
Wonderful. Yes, and the same counts for talking about things. So some of us have a stronger connection to writing things. It's more of a tactile release, or a tactile process. For some of us, it's more of a verbal or auditory process where we need to talk about things. And some of us just really need to, and we're getting a lot of comments here, practical tips from you, audience, and they're all wonderful, to follow the breathing, to really sort of uncover this ongoing thinkingness, and to accept that's just part of us, but to pierce through that. And deep breathing, yeah, again, count to 4, all these things can help. Of course, meditation is something that you will hear everywhere is most efficient in helping to develop a discipline to bypass the mind. And I want to thank you all. Sorry, I can't read all of your comments here because those are all great suggestions. But they all lead to into the same direction, and that is to find a way what, that works for us to silence our mind. So some people, like to go out in nature, connect with nature to get rid of their excess emotions or excess thinking. Some people like to do things with their hands, like Sheila said, writing things. Or myself, I like baking. If I can't resolve something within myself or find myself in mental looping, I bake cookies. For other people, it's physical exercise, or taking a bath, or engaging in soft, uh, uh, relaxing and calming activities like singing, listening to music. Yes, those are all tips here that came from the audience. So and this is something that every one of us kind of has to feel out for ourselves. There's no one thing that works for all of us. Meditation is one of those universal techniques that are proven to help to silence the mind. But I also know that there's a lot of frustration associated with meditation. Um, I feel like I can relate to that myself very well. It took me about 20 years to learn how to meditate. So if it doesn't work out for you right away, all right, don't throw the towel. All right.
But
You
there's
know, a
hope.
lot of times for a lot of people, just doing an activity like you talked about, crafts, things with your hands, something
Mhm.
that you get lost in, um, that takes your mind off of yourself,
Well,
And things like helping other people too. Uh, Helping someone else instantly takes your focus off what's going on with you internally, and it
yeah,
brings major
that's
change.
very true, and that's true therapeutically too. If someone's, um, that's why not every therapist, for example, or a clinician is going to be the one that solves it for everyone. That's why people need to find what connects for them,
And
even
that's the
when,
key word
Yes.
here. That's the key word, Sheila. And you said it earlier as well. It's in connecting with ourselves, and that is a process. And we have to find the pathways to connecting with ourselves. So there is the mind, which is for the most part in the way. And then we have to experiment a bit and open ourselves up to finding what works for us. If someone is at the very beginning of their journey, it will literally, I would strongly recommend to really try different things. What helps you to connect? And we all have, just sort of as a little piece of information here, we all have sort of primary channels of processing information. So some of us are more tactile oriented, some of us are more visually oriented, some of us are more auditorily oriented, some of us are more intuitively oriented. Find out what your primary channel is, because you will find the things that work most efficiently for you to calm down your mind, to calm down your energy in those areas first where your primary processing takes place. All right, we have to hurry up here a little bit. And yes, there's many comments here which all go in the same direction. It has to do with acceptance. It has to do with observing ourselves, paying attention, recognizing. Thank you all. Thank you for
Yes.
contributing in this way. And before we channel the energies for February 2017, I just want to point out here that the reason why we even need to learn how to um, bypass our mind, bypass some of the things in the way of connecting within, is because that's the foundation of beginning to feel our inner truths. And when we feel our inner truths, we can feel what is true to us and what is not. What is life or energy supporting for us and what is not. And we talked about that yesterday. So today, we were actually going to talk about how this translates in some of the choices, like the food, for instance. But because we went into such a detail here as to, and practical aspects of that, I want to jump right ahead at, an article that I wrote about how to integrate high vibrational goals in our physical and our choices. And really what we discussed here today is the foundation for that, and that is getting to that place where we can even make those decisions. Most of us are in a place where we can't even feel what is, if you will, good for us, what is true to us, and what isn't. And this is the same for every thought, every emotion, every person, every place. Anything that we surround ourselves or ingest, it's the same principle. And of course, that therefore also counts for diet, because diet has something to do with the vibration of our physical. And as we all know, our physical, as long as we are in this carnation, our physical plays a major role in our journey. And so everything we talked about today, about making healthy choices and how to get to that place that we can even make these choices, applies to food as well. And there's very, very simple rules, really. You don't have to be an expert in order to decide whether a food or a dish is supportive for you or not. For one, of course, you need to be able to be in connection with yourself. And this is what we talked about today. So without being in connection with yourself, you cannot really feel if a food is good for you or not. But I'll make an example. If we eat something that is very heavy on our system and that makes us fall asleep or become almost not functional anymore for a certain time, then chances are that the food that we ate was a little too heavy for us. So we may, this doesn't necessarily mean that was bad food. It just means that maybe we had too much, or maybe we didn't have enough water in our system to even metabolize the food that we eat. Or maybe we ate at the wrong time of the day. Maybe there wasn't enough nutrients in there. Maybe there wasn't enough life in that food. So in this article here, and I will send you the link with the recording, Basics of High Vibrational Living, Part 2, Integrating a High Vibrational Diet. These things are all laid out in detail. This is a very long article and really goes into those different factors of determining which kind of food, at what time of the day, in what composition, and so forth, is good for us. And a lot of practical tips, and you'll probably be very surprised. One of the #1 rules of sort of integrating a healthy and life-promoting diet is to not deprive ourselves. So if there are things that we really love deep with our heart, even if we know they're not 100% that good, like the chocolate or sweets or the coffee that we like, you'll get an answer here that you may not expect, and that is, give yourself those things, but in proportion. And what I mean with proportion is that if you make sure that you have good hydration levels, that you have good micronutrients, that you have some a really sort of balanced diet, then really, from an energetic standpoint, the healthiest way to feed ourselves or to engage in activities and thoughts and with people is an 80-20 rule. From an energetic standpoint, it is not advisable to trying to be 100%, to trying to be perfect, to trying to be too clean. And we won't have the time to go into the reasons for that today, but there are energetic reasons, and this can be explained, why a little bit of contamination, a little bit of darkness, if you will, helps our system to stay alert. It helps our system to cross-train. It helps our system to stay in a constant state of self-correction and self-healing. So that's all part of this article that you can read. There are lots of questions also that were sent in before the show, and I don't want to neglect them here. One of this one of these questions was, are there any high vibrational foods that I recommend? And just like Sheila said, there's no such thing as one therapy, for instance, or one haircut, or one thing that works for all. Anything that is matching our vibrational alignment, ideally, would be most supportive for us. But there are some general rules, and that is anything that has contaminants in it, anything that is overprocessed, genetically modified, in some way altered, is less in vibration than natural or naturally occurring foods. So the golden rule here is that the more natural a food is, the more higher vibrational resonances it naturally brings in. So, when we cook our food, when we process our food, of course, it loses a little bit of that. But as long as we are conscious and aware in the food preparation, for instance, we can make up for a lot of this. And research is also clearly showing that blessing our food ups the vibrational frequency of our food. So there are many different factors that play into what we ingest and how it's being metabolized, energetically metabolized within us. And the very same thing counts for every thought, for every emotion, for every person that we surround ourselves with, for every place, and any activity that we do. So the whole point, sorry, Sheila, just let me finish this one sentence. The whole point of becoming aware of our inner connection, to strengthen that, to energize that, to really pay attention to that, which then allows us to make better choices, to make healthier choices, is to be able to discern what is true to us and what is not, what is good for us and what is not, what supports us and what is not supporting us. The principles are the same. Go ahead, Sheila.
I was just going to say that just made me think about the increased vibration if you are able to grow your own food, I would imagine, right?
Yes. That adds to the vibrational frequency. And there's another effect, the match, the resonance between you and your food. If you grow a food, it's just like when you raise a child or you raise a puppy. This food begins to align to you. And so when you eat it, then it really brings in sort of the highest form of vibrational match for you, which means, and this is a whole field in itself, it brings in more nutrients that are aligned to your specific needs.
That's
And
great.
that's kind of about blessing the food too. The blessing of the food, that was a really cool connection too. Makes sense.
Yeah. All right, then another question here. How critical do you think it is to have a clear mindset in how we can achieve things? Like, let me rephrase this question just a little bit here. So I think, Trish, you're asking, what is is it important to have a clear intention or a clear mindset in order to achieve our goals? Since we talked about how to bypass our mind here in this show, the answer, of course, is not that simple. There is a certain a resolve and a certain intent needed to focus our energies on something. So we all know this. Like, if you have no goal, it's very difficult to reach a goal, right? Because we would never even know if we've reached it, because we didn't know where we wanted to be. So there has to be a certain mindset, and there has to be a certain clarity about this. And this is basically what we learned through, sort of the power of mindfulness, and the power of affirmations and so forth. This is using our mind to purify, to clarify our intent and our focus. But when it comes to achieving, just to use your word here, Trish, achieving our higher goals, and then the laws that are at play become very different. And it's not about our mind anymore. Our mind can only bring us so far. And beyond, and I can tell you or show you exactly how far the mind can get you, regardless of how well you can control it, or how well you can bypass it. And that is, oops, oh gosh, yeah, I have to go through, sorry. Go to slide. Not sure. There you go. Our mind, see this threshold here between contractive or lower vibratory energies and expansive higher vibratory energies, is this threshold here is truth. So this is what we talked about today. We talked about how to align to truth. And then there's another threshold, and that comes in one of the future days here. This is this threshold. It's the threshold between mind and heart. And so for most of us who have an alignment to higher goals in life, to really align to the abundance of love, and life as in its full expression, and to be healing and to be healed at the same time, and to feel this love within. Our mind cannot get us here. Our mind cannot grasp those. And so we have to surrender our mind here as well. And at these levels, if this is our goal setting here, if this is what we want to achieve, then our mind will not be a tool anymore. So this is why we begin to learn how to bypass our mind sort of here in these transitory states already, so that we can feel when we need to surrender our mind. I hope this answers your question. Another question here from Richard. December energies have been extremely bizarre. What's your take on them? Well, I do write a weekly energy report, and they're very detailed. And I've made some comments yesterday already that, particularly this week, we're under the influence of solstice energy. So that is my take on what is currently happening. But if you want to get sort of the larger picture, please read the energy reports. Sign up for the weekly energy digest. All right. Another question here from Amy. How to confirm we are vibrating on a higher frequency than before? This is a very important question. And Amy, I would like to ask you to be patient and have us talk about this tomorrow. How can we assess whether we are, today we talked about how to identify our energetic states. Tomorrow I'd like to talk about how to assess if we're actually, well, improving, if you will. How, if there are things, that we've sort of successfully worked on. And there's a second part to your question. How do we know that there's a shift in our vibration? Or how do we know if we're moving forward by attracting the right kind of people, for instance? Or if we're clearing out some of the old stuff. So those would be themes for our day 3 for tomorrow's session. Right now, I would like to stop right here with the questions, and because we're already over time, and sort of let us all take a deep breath and begin to channel the energies for February 2017. So if you were here yesterday, you learned a technique that I introduced, a very simple breathing technique. Now, if you weren't here yesterday, but if you are familiar with the I am deep breathing or any other breathing technique that you know that can help you to center, then I want you to know that you already know a very efficient tool to bypass your mind. Right? So breathing, and this came up here in a lot of suggestions from the audience, is a key to learn how to center our energies. And see, the thing is, when we center our energies, we pull it out of the chaos. We pull them out of the chaos. We pull them out of the entropy that our world here underlies. We converge our energies in our center. We bring them into syntropy, and those are all sort of scientific words that we can cover here at a later time. But the main thing to understand about breathing and some of these energy work techniques that we teach here at transCODES is to understand that centering, to go into the center of our center, and you've heard Sheila and Roger say this over and over again, to go into our hearts. The heart as the center of our center, not our physical heart, but the vortex, the energy field that's around our heart. When we go there, we're bypassing our mind as well. And when we can bypass our mind and hold that field that we're tapping into, then we have access to much more information than we think we do. Probably what most people call knowingness, right? We can, without being too technical about this, what kind of information we are accessing there. We're not trying to read any specific information here, and we don't want to come across as clairvoyance. All we're doing is we're using precognition. It's a very simple form of precognition, an innate human ability to channel the energies for February 2017. And so I would like to invite you now to take a few deep breaths with us, and hopefully also to clear out some of the excess emotional and mental energies in your system as you do this. Suggested here by me through pulling in all these energies around your center, from basically above your heart center and from below your heart center into your center, like a vacuum cleaner, literally like a vacuum cleaner. And there are some suggestions that are coming in here. Yes. So to center your energy through your in-breath in the center, and then to release excess energies as you exhale. And the way I suggest you to do this is to release those energies sideways, not forward, like we see our breath going, sideways, like as if you would stretch your arms left and right. This is the trajectory in which you want to release energies. And you can also see this behind you, because the center of your center is within you. And as you release energies, it kind of shoots out into all directions, but on that plane, on your outstretched arms. So breathing in, pulling all excess energies into the center, holding it. Breathing out, releasing all excess energies sideways from within and around me. And again, breathing in, holding, releasing. Again, breathing in, holding, and releasing. Right. This is working very good. All right. So what is coming up for you guys? And you can raise your hand if you want to speak into the microphone here. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, or just simply type it. There's so much coming in. Okay, there's a diamond coming in. The word balance is coming in. I'm getting balance as well. Balance. So
A
after
bear.
we say that again.
A bear.
A bear. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just writing this down. Okay, this is my job to transcode all these things.
And it's standing up on
I'm
its
getting a
hind legs to
circle.
get a vision, to be able to see
There's a
forward.
circle, Jonah.
A circle. I'm seeing that too. Okay, just keep breathing. All right, keep breathing. The longer you breathe, don't hyperventilate, but as long as you breathe, you're staying in your center, and you want to prevent your mind to take over. So if you feel like you're starting to like sort of going into your mind, then realign, reset to your heart, and go back into your center again. All right, here. So, Brian, yes, the choices from January and staying on course. So the January was kind of like about seeing truth and also almost being a little shocked, a little surprised, and almost being forced to make new choices. And it feels like February, the processing of all that sort of these new revelations seem to settle a bit. They seem to come into more balance, and they will ask us to stay on course now, to hold that place where we found new courage. Yes, and to still be open. What else?
Yes, I'm seeing being open to seeing, learning something new.
I have a bit of a throat thing to use your voice.
Okay, to like maybe to go into a more sort of congruent expression of ourselves.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like to follow through and carry on, but maybe have to speak up.
Yes, I feel that too. The speaking up part is very strong. In fact, this is actually already coming in right now. So balance, yes, I see balance on many different levels here for February. So apparently there's some kind of back and forth, maybe masculine, feminine energies. Yes, somebody else is mentioning this too. Lots of energy coming out of the feet, like grounding. Grounding is one of these techniques that can help us to stay centered, that can help us to maintain our balance. And, in the context with expression, like Sheila, you said, speaking up for ourselves, it helps us to strengthen our stance. Right? So grounding as an energy work technique has a really important function in maintaining our balance. Center pillar, yes, those are all symbols of sort of strengthening our position.
Yeah, there's a linear line, almost like a horizon.
Okay, horizon. Horizon. When we see a horizon, this can mean different things. As an energy coach, we learn not to interpret things too much, not to let our mind take off with some of the ideas. So it can mean event horizon. It can mean that something new is arising. It can also mean that we calibrate ourselves to a certain level. There's something there about really, this is very strong about maintaining or like sort of holding that alignment to truth. I get the feeling, looking into the collective energies of February, that there's going to be a lot of changes in February. A lot of changes, like a sudden changes. And that this requires us to really be firm with our own values, with like what we need, what we want. Because these sudden changes will force us to make a stance. maybe not as far as like making a choice, more as um, making a stance for ourselves to really allow this to come into expression. Yes, there's symbols here, and this is all posts from people, from you audience here. Courage, like a lion walking around. Some stabbing pains in the first. Yes, some of these changes can affect our very foundation, our very place where we live, maybe even the freedom that we're used to, or that we're taking for granted. So I feel this hit, this energetic hit in our foundation as well, which is why grounding came in. Okay, so January feels very much like a revelation, like almost like an awakening, but more so, like just seeing things more clearly. February feels a little bit chaotic, a little bit upsetting because of the amount of changes, and there's a little bit of chaos sort of linked to that because there's no new structure. There's sort of like the old structure is leaving, but the new structure is not fully manifested yet.
That's part of what I was feeling before, was being open to seeing things in a
Yes.
new way, from a new, different perspective.
No change, huh?
Yes.
Oh well. And on with it, I would say. As we all see ourselves as or begin to see ourselves as energetic beings, we also have to recognize that if everything is energy and if everything can transform, if everything can change, well, then that means that healing or things sort of developing into our direction, sort of what's most beneficial for us, is really just a matter of adjusting. So yeah, that looks like we're getting closer to sort of attuning our energy to what's ahead here, and we're going to continue channeling the months each day. So today was the second day of our getting through the holidays, and which is why we channeled February today. Tomorrow is going to be the third day, and we're going to be channeling March energies. And it's okay. You can also prepare for this if you want to. Those of you who are used to tuning into energies can already do this, and you can share this with us, and you can send in comments or questions ahead of time. Okay, so here is another comment. The word level for February is coming in. Level. So we don't know yet what all this means, and it's best not to try to interpret everything. It's best to stay open, as Roger said. So you audience have been very patient here, and this seems to be a pattern now that we go over time. Are there any questions? Would you like to ask anything here? Would you like to ask Sheila or Roger, since you have them here? Then please do so now.
I would like to make a quick comment while questions are formulating. Again, as I said last night, if anybody has difficulty getting through the holidays and you need someone to talk to, you can email me anytime at roger@transcodes.com, and we can possibly hook up on Skype or something. And I want to also thank Sheila for being on the panel. It was very nice having you here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, and
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, very much. Greatly appreciated, and thank you, Roger, for offering this service. Yes, after all, we're here. Right now we're just mostly talking. This is because energies are still building. But as the days will, as the energies will escalate and so forth, we will probably hear more and more people sharing. So know that whenever you want to, you can share, talk into the microphone, ask Roger, me, or our panel guests live questions at any time. And we can't wait to see you tomorrow. Our next theme here, our next theme here is something that we've already scratched on today, and that is to read and work our own energy. So Amy's questions here in regards to like, how do we know that we even move forward and so forth, and how can we assess all that? That we will talk about tomorrow.
Should be a cool session. That's a nice topics there. Good questions.
That sounds awesome.
Thank you so much, everyone, coming here, commenting, contributing. You guys were a great audience. I know this is mostly silent, so nobody really knows how much you've contributed, but I really want to humbly thank you for everything that you contributed here today and for this wonderful channeling of February 2017 energies. Everybody have a wonderful night, a wonderful day. Talk to you tomorrow at the same time, 8 p.m. U.S. Mountain Time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Sounds
you,
good.
Yona.
Bye-bye.